Right, hello everyone. This is the January MetaNet ICU meeting, monthly meeting. We haven't got a lot of people here today, so I'm going to talk a little bit about micro payments, microtransactions, micropayments, collaboration, gaming online, and MetaNet hosting stuff, identity as well, all these things which link together, and law as well. I mean, here you go, here's one. If you check the link I've given you there in the chat, this is, some of you probably already know, it's not a finished version yet. This is the next version of MetaNet.land, and basically you move around. Each area is on a transaction, and you move around from transaction to transaction, and each interaction is also on its own separate transaction. And all the pictures and images there currently are not drawn from different transactions, but they can be, and in the future they will be. So everything on an area is built up from different transactions drawn together, what the player will see. And the artwork can be much more 3D-like, and also in virtual reality, it looks pretty decent enough as it is already. You use your fingers to swipe and to interact with money buttons. And also you can zoom in to the GIFs and the later 3D artwork. You'll be able to zoom into it, move it around a bit in your 3D environment, while using your fingers to interact with the money button, which the money buttons can also be placed on different areas, like in part on the images, like as a doorway, a door handle. You can swipe a money button to open a door into a virtual area, which is on the MetaNet, on a transaction, stored on there forever. So this is stuff you can do now with 100 kilobyte limit on op return. After Genesis, you're going to be able to chain op returns. So you will be able to do, I'm currently limited on what I can put on a single transaction, so it's everyone. But after Genesis, with chaining op return, you'll be able to put on more on a single transaction. And since you'll be able to put on more on a single transaction, you'll also be able to upload better files, music files, for example. You can have someone in a gaming environment walk into a tavern, which is on an area, on a transaction, which draws music from another transaction. Then maybe players, because you've seen stuff how like AudioB works, how you can link identity to purchasers and such, and with Paymail this makes it a lot easier. Imagine someone going into an online store stored on a transaction, and then using similar technology to buy music, which is also stored on chain, and then that shop to be there forever. In later versions, you have to then upload later versions, and there's a way to do that. You know, you have to still keep reference to the main domains underlying it. So eventually there will be certifications which can be used. I won't go on about that just yet. Certifications, we'll talk about that in a future meeting, but that is another thing for businesses to set up, and self-regulating bodies. But again, future talk. Anyway, back to gaming, microtransactions and collaborative efforts. Now, some of these transactions, by the way, this area is not finished. There are like a few free dead areas. So you just have to hit the backspace for that for now. I'm not going to release it to the wider public until I've finished these updates, which should be by the end of the month. Yeah, anyway, collaboration. Some of these areas split the microtransactions for fractions of a penny used as energy, because I refer to it as energy instead of Satoshis or whatever, are sent to Mapek. And as fractions of the penny is sent to him, some are sent to the miner, obviously for the miner fee, and some are sent to myself. Now, this can be split even further. In this game, for example, I say more exertive things like digging a hole or climbing stairs and such cost a penny or cost more of a fraction of a penny. That way you can use more collaboration in certain areas and split the money further. You could have, say, like a mountain village where every movement costs half a penny to walk around, and that way it can be split 5 ways. One of the key things about this kind of way of development is what I'm going to say is the decentralized nature of involvement, of inclusivity. As a developer, right, MetaNet land is on transactions. You access it via Beacon Media, and later there'll be other things which you'll be able to play, use it to play. But some areas will refer back to the actual domain. Yet what other developers can do is, for example, say have Stefan.land. And by that, all you have to do is design your own areas, your own basic website. A lot of what I've done is brought a theme and I modded it slightly. And I will continue to mod it and improve it slightly. But say, for example, Stefan did Stefan Land. He could do a tower, a village, Stefan Town, do his own little stories. All his transactions, all his money comes back to him and whoever's helping him. A lot of his area could go on the transactions, link back to his website. And then eventually, what you can do is have his areas link to MetaNet land. And it can link one way, that way. He could create portals, for example, which send a player to my various zones. Basically, what they do with the redirects, they bounce off metanet.land, whatever. I'd provide him with links, and then it would move into my area. A player would move into my area, literally kind of walk into the area, or walk through a portal into the area. And then what I, as a recipient, can then do is create a portal back. You know, if I think, oh, actually, you know, I like that Stefan.land, he's doing a great job, I will create a portal back. That way, you've got 2 lands interconnecting, players walking from one area to the other, and basically increasing the pie, so to speak, is a good metaphor, and increasing more players coming to both of your areas. And eventually, say if you have 10 developers working on different little areas, and maybe with 1 or 2 other people collaborating with them, like an artist or a story writer, because this is an interesting and good method to get other types of skilled people involved. And it's like the musicians and artists and such, those type of people, they reach a lot of people, you know, you've got to get them involved. Graphic designers, there's spaces, yeah, we need more graphic designers. Anyway, this inclusivity of development, other developers can then just basically create their own domain, create their own land, link it up. If it's a terrible land, like say someone has done no effort into it and links it up to say MetaNet land and Stefan land, he makes 2 portals to both of us, because look, everyone see, and then just expects us to create portals back. We can turn around and say no, because he's done a terrible job. And it's up to us, it's up to the creator's own choice to create a link back to whomever's connecting to them. So by that, it gives the incentive to whoever's creating to them to go, okay, I'll make my land better and good enough, so I can then say, look, come on, it's good enough, link back to me. Otherwise, I'll disconnect mine to you, type of thing. And if it's good enough, eventually me and Stefan, might go, all right, we like what you're doing. I'm going to connect my land to yours. I'll create a bridge, the magic rainbow bridge or whatever, or a spaceship. You know, because these lands can be completely varied. I had a chat with, credit to Brendan, about how, you know, you could have a spaceship version. Someone walks into the woods, Genesis woods, down a certain path, and it hits an old broken teleporter device, sends them off to a spaceship, to another land someone else has designed and put forward. Now, the other key point about this type of design is that you can have NPCs, selling selling anything that you can store on chain. They can sell services or products. You could have an NPC selling hats and t-shirts design. And when a player, this money button and the NPC is stored on a transaction in an area in maybe Satoshi Village or Nakamoto Town, and when that specific money button is clicked, it also sends a message. And Baymail as well can be I have to talk to Deccan, but basically Baymail can be linked into this in certain ways. The simplest ways is just making a tavern box with a hyperlink to Baymail, but you can have Baymail in the game in a way where, say you are, I suspect that you can anyway, say that you're talking to an NPC and you buy a button, buy something off them. So I'm in Stefan land and there's the Mike NPC, and I buy off the Mike NPC an ICU t-shirt. He will receive the money and also a little notification via Baymail, maybe, saying, blah, 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 you've had a customer at your NPC in such and such location. This is the message from the customer, which might contain it will contain my own Paymail address. And then from there, you can use Baymail to say, oh, this is my address, because that's, a part you want encrypted, and part of the GDPR, obviously you can't broadcast someone's address and delivery address and such on chain. But if you use the Baymail / money button decryption method, and then you can basically buy off NPCs on an area on a transaction, because it enables you to decrypt. And also the other thing as well is the two key things from this is identity. If a Paymail isn't just an identity, okay, it's a key point in it. But what a user needs to do is supply more identity to that, a voluntary given identity, and then it needs a business backing it. This is what I was working towards with MetaNet ID. I still will get back to it. Is that you have a business backing the identity. So say Mike comes along to MetaNet ID, supplies his payment, gets a Paymail, or supplies his Paymail and says, this is my Paymail, this is my identity. And then me as a business verify it, and I say, yep, okay, I'll give him the thumbs up. And then he could go in MetaNet land, walk around, buy something off an item off an NPC, Stefan could then check his Paymail address, money button at that Paymail address, and see whatever identity was attached and go, okay, that's brilliant. I'll send him a Baymail, or maybe he's already sent a Baymail with the address when he brought it off the NPC. And there you go, that's the transaction complete. And then you've just got to send him whatever service or transaction, unless it's on chain and it's just encrypted music or a product or service. Anyway, that is like key points. Trust as well. Trust is important because obviously you need some kind of universal trust system and a rating system where people have left reviews, not just stars and whatnot. Because you want the reviews and the Paymail so that you can verify that the people who are leaving the trust are legit as well. And if you've seen the work Connor's doing, have a look at that. It's very good work. He's heading in the right direction there. So yeah, slowly, bit by bit, you start to build all the components and the functions, basically, towards a fully functioning on-chain MetaNet system, which also acts as a data repository. And by that, I mean, all this stuff, all these stories anyone puts on an area in trading stays on there forever. Even when you put newer versions, as people will, for historians and whatnot, for history, it's all there. Everyone can go back and check. And for yourself, you can always go back and check and find your old code and see what you used to do. And that's kind of important. If anyone has any questions. Okay. I'll go on a bit then. it also helps with this type of method and such. You can do a bit more and everything as well. When you have areas locked to, like, say, a design group builds a village, and most of the transactions going on in that village get split off to the design group, whereas some of the transactions get split off to different collaborators, like who build the NPCs. You can get some it's like the building blocks, basically, of a boundless world of real developer tools. If you've looked into virtual reality, I don't know if any of you have, but if you look into virtual reality and see the way they're developing and building things at the moment, the key thing that they hit walls with is the capacity limits, which they run into. You know, if you could do so much more if you could just store everything on chain. I mean, you'd have a design server, you'd design all your stuff, but then when people really realize how much you can actually just do on chain, as in websites as well, websites are just the simplest things. It brings a whole new level to technology thing, because websites exist as websites as they are because the old financial method wasn't built for the internet, and the old identity system as well wasn't built for the internet. Passports and, you know, those little picture things and all of that stuff wasn't built for the internet. But as Craig has mentioned before, money is just information, and when we're talking Bitcoin and, well, MetaNet, we're just talking information passing from A to B, and that changes the way, like, people won't be building websites. It changes the way people do things because it changes the way people interact. They'll be building more highly interactive things. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what people do. And also at Genesis, and all the people here were right at the start of it. This is why I've been very much strongly encouraging people to build new models. There's a lot of stuff you can do while absorbing old models as well. A lot of old models to absorb. Right. Questions, anyone? You've just had me rambling for a while. I'm gonna just check Slack quickly. There's nothing there. Okay, I'm gonna be ending this one early, I think. If anyone wants to get involved in Genesis Words, just wait, in MetaNet.land, wait until the end of the month. I will release a public release then. Oh, sorry, what's that? Yes, exactly, Stefan. It's pretty much exactly that. But I'm hoping that as it catches on, developers will just be able to build their own area and build on-chain areas. They could build a house and do little GIFs or a video image of a whole room, and interaction, put books on-chain like this. Yeah, and just slowly, and it's not just about putting this stuff on chain, it's about making some money back for themselves and creating some areas. There's so much more and that they could do. They could get other people involved that are not just developers. That's what I think is quite important. We need to look at as well. How do we get, I mean, $5 is headed in the right direction, but obviously we're a tiny niche at the moment. But it's also a case of, yeah, how do we get more creative artists involved? You know, but musicians out there and people who have wacky videos which have like 1 million viewers, 1 million subscribers. I mean, it's those type of people, if they find an edge an interesting thing, not just the novelty of doing it on the chain, but an actual profitable motive that incentivizes them to do it on chain. And I'll be honest and say a lot of it's not there just yet, because we've spent the last year rebuilding everything, which thankfully, well, we've needed to. And it's only taken a year, which I'm actually really thankful for, a year and 4 months. It's been good. And once that's all repaired, I think the tools to do even more things will become even more apparent. Yeah, I would say as well, if you're not running a business or not planning to, get involved with someone who is. No one can run a business by themselves. It drives you crazy. Build teams and, you know, people who can help you out, and don't surround yourself with yes people. That's the worst thing. Surround yourself with people who will question you, and be prepared to fail. Absolutely. Be prepared to, if you're starting a business, be prepared to have a exit plan where you go, okay, this isn't doing well. Give it a good amount of time, but make sure you have that point where you say, okay, this is my exit plan, so I can get out and try something else. Don't let yourself burn completely for one business, because you'll want to pick yourself back up and try the next thing, and try and take what you've learned from any previous business, even if it was a bad experience, especially if it was a bad experience, because those are the most important lessons, and bring them forward to whatever next business venture you have next. And try not to rush things, but timing is important. Timing is very important. You can't, if you bring out a product at the right time, even if it's not a finished product, you do much better than bringing it out 10 years later when everyone else is doing it on the market already, even if yours is a finished product. It's, and sometimes you bring stuff out too early and everyone's like, what's this? And it doesn't catch on, and you've got to try and struggle and burn while you get through there. I think just to talk about the ICU quickly, I think I was quite lucky, as we've spent a year, like myself getting the price model right, and with the help as well, I won't say names, but he knows who he is, helping with the coding on the back end. We've got it to a good point, and eventually, say in a year or 2 years time, I'm hoping, obviously I'm going to expand what we're doing, and I'm hoping to show the model to other similar business model, membership type businesses, and like newspapers, membership type businesses, all type of things which have a paywall. They can use something like this, and it's absolutely brilliant, reliable, and for refunds, really good. And well, you all know how good Money Button is, so. So that's a slight part of my goal, is to get the ICU strong enough where I and others can say, this model really works well, we've been using it for years, we'd like to just show you how to do it, here you go, and just freely give it to them. If you do come across anyone who would like something like the ICU, tier changing model stuff, send them forward and talk to us. Obviously, we kind of want to vet them, because we don't want to just give it to someone who's going to try and copy paste it on a shitcoin type of thing. Right, I think I'm going to end the meeting, end of the recording anyway. This is the end of the January MetaNet ICU meeting. Goodbye.